Welcome to Rise to Lead, the podcast where heart-driven leaders come together to inspire and innovate. They will share actionable tips and insights that help you lead your team more successfully, advance your career or business as a leader, achieve greater impact, and experience deeper fulfillment. I'm your host, Regina Huber, guiding you through deep conversations about leadership that's rooted in service, freedom, and the desire to leave a positive mark on the world. Welcome to this episode of Rise to Lead with a very, very dear friend who I met in 2019 in Johannesburg at a conference that we were both speakers at. And welcome to the podcast, Asnath Mahapa.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Regina. Thank you for having me.
Asnath, I was so looking forward to this conversation. I told you that already. I'm so blessed to have you on with me today. So let me, if that's okay with you, introduce you to our audience first before we dive into our chat, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. Asnath is the first African woman to be a commercial pilot in South Africa. She's also an incredibly inspiring speaker, and she is the co-founder of Mountain Reach Technologies, a web-based career selection technology that is powerfully predictive. It scientifically and automatically matches skill sets to suitable career prospects. And we have been working on a project together where we'll be training women in leadership. And I'm so thrilled about this collaboration. More about this later. Dear listeners, you are in for a treat because I am sharing my wonderful friend and powerhouse, Asnath Mahapa, with you today. So listen up. Asnath, welcome again.
Thank you so much.
First, tell us about how you got to do what you do today. We want to hear your story. I know it's very, very rich, and you're also a pilot, apart from all the other things that we're going to talk about. So let us know.
Yeah, Regina, I believe, and I believe deeply that I'm one of those people who are very fortunate in life to find something that I really love. A lot of people go around not knowing what their passion is and what their talent is. And I'm just so blessed to have found my passion, to have found my love. And it's a weird story because all of this really began not a very long time ago, but it just came, when they say you meet opportunity when you don't expect it, it's exactly that. It's exactly what happened to me. So I grew up in a small village, and in South Africa, when we talk about a village, it's not a German village. In South Africa, there's no electricity, there is no running water, there is no proper roads, road infrastructure. So that's where I grew up. I grew up in a place like that. Mm-hmm. And but Regina, I always tell people that I had a mother. You have moms and whatever. I had a mother. My mother was a very strong woman, and somehow I don't know where she got that from, but my mother believed that we're all born with excellence within ourselves. So she wouldn't allow you to, shortchange yourself. So at school, we expected to pass, we expected to do well, because that's what she believed. She just believed that everybody is born with excellence within themselves. And I grew up watching my mother study all the time. She studied all the time. And she's one of those people that I can say in my mind, though she passed on at a very young age, she's one of those people at the top of my head. I can say she was one of the greatest leaders. And I'll tell you why. I still live according to the stuff that she taught me. Not only that, I come across people. My mother passed on 32 years ago, but I still come across people who are now highly educated, and they give credence to my mother. This is 32 odd years ago. And one lady said to me that your mother she had matric, which is high school graduation in South Africa.
Mhm.
And she was now married. She didn't know what to do with her life. And my mother was the one who got her out of that mood. She became a teacher. She now has a master's degree. And so for me, that is why I say my mother, for me, from the top of my head, she was one of the greatest leaders I can think of all time. And in any case, when after she passed, she left that seed in us, her three girls, because all of us were, we just wanted to thrive in our lives. And for me to become a pilot is something that was just something I never thought of. So I was visiting an aunt of mine who lives in Joburg. Joburg was like the place to be. It's still the economic hub in South Africa. And so my aunt and her husband lived here in Joburg. So my father one December sent us to visit her. And one day I was listening and actually eavesdropping because she was talking to her husband about her neighbor who was a pilot. Now, I told you where I grew up. I grew up from a small village. And to me, I had never seen an aeroplane, close by. Um, to me, pilots were people who could not possibly be a few hundred, meters from me. So for me, they were these elite people who could not possibly live amongst us. And when she said her neighbor was a pilot, I thought, oh my goodness. So it's a normal person and they're flying this thing that I always see in the sky. And that just sparked curiosity in my head. And because remember what I said, my mother just told us we were excellent in our own way. So I never had this this beliefs that I can't do something. I've always been, and I still am. I just believe I can do anything I want to put my mind to. Um, so I thought, okay, if this person is a normal human being, blood running through their system like me, surely I can do this. And that's where it all began for me. So I started reading magazines about flying. I started reading anything. So whenever my father gave me pocket money, because I was in boarding school, when I passed our town going back home, I would go through any shop that had some flying material, and that's what I would do. I would go in there and buy anything that had to do with flying. So that's where I learned about flying. So that's where the passion began, and yeah, here I am today. I mean, I've been in this career for taking 20. Well, I qualified in 1999, so we're talking 25 years now. And as you remember, in 1999 in South Africa, a woman like me, it was very new because it was very, very new after our democracy. Our democracy was in 1994. So 5 years down the line, there's this African girl who just became a commercial pilot. Yeah.
That is an impressive story. And yes, I
So
grew up in a village of 9 houses, but yes, we did have electricity,
yeah,
Gladly. And we didn't have any shops though, but you know, but yeah, this is an amazing story, very, very inspiring. And you can definitely call yourself lucky or, just blessed that you had this mother who inspired the spirit in you and who
yeah,
sparked this flame, and
yeah,
and also who allowed you to be curious, because the curiosity is what eventually took you to this profession,
yes, yeah,
right?
yeah. Mm.
Yeah. So what eventually moved you to become a co-founder of Mountain Reach Technologies then?
You briefly touched on what we do at Mountain Ridge Technologies,
Mhm.
and so I've joined different organizations throughout my life where I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And the more, when you start something, anything you start in life, if you see a challenge and you think you can come up with a solution, you never think there's something deeper behind that thing. So you just see things and then you think, okay, maybe I can go and offer a solution. So I started by coaching young girls, uh, in STEM projects. So your maths and science, and just to try and encourage them, to become leaders themselves, because you have to lead yourself before you can actually step out and lead other people. So that's where I started, and I started talking at high schools, boys and girls both, trying to encourage them. But the more I went to, I would call disadvantaged schools, talk to these youngsters, you start hearing the same problems. The problems are youngsters are dropping out of school quite early. One particular school that I went to, one teacher was telling me that you could see the dropout rate. So it starts grade 8 when they get to high school, but you see it, it's progressive. By the time they get to matric, you could almost in that school predict what number you were going to be looking at. And I thought, this something is not right. We can't just go through this and accept that things are the way they are and that there's no solution. And so that sparked something in my head, that there must be something wrong, because here I am, I'm living my dream, and we're talking about people who don't see hope. Somewhere along the line they lose hope and then they just drop out of school. So that's where it started. So that was the first thing. Then I joined another organization. It's about education. So they actually follow what's happening within our education in the country. And the shocking statistics that came out was that, for example, if in South Africa, if you have 1 million children starting school, grade 1, by the time they finish university, you are left with 50,000 of them, 50,500 of them. So by the time they finish university, you are left with 5%. 5% is the outcome, the output that we have. Somewhere along the line, we lose over 900,000 kids. That again was like, what is happening actually? What is actually happening here? And of that 50,500, only 30% of them end up finding jobs. Now we're talking about this employability, unemployment it's actually at its highest rate in this country at the moment. But I believe in the universe. When you start doing something, the universe just puts things together for you. And while I was going through this challenge of finding out what is happening, I mean, you end up meeting people who are looking at the same challenges as you, and like there has to be a solution to this. And so within Mountain Tree Technologies, there are a few people that I'm working with now. We then found this. He's a doctor now. He's got like 5 PhDs, who was also having the same challenge of what is happening. Why is it that people cannot find their passion? Why is it that you have people who are, even those who are employed, some of them, when it comes to Monday, they become depressed because they don't actually want to go to work. They're not doing what they are born to do, what is in them, what they're passionate about. And most of the time they don't even know what that passion is. That's where the problem is. So we sat around with this doctor, and he actually said that he has a solution. He has come up with a solution where a person writes an assessment that is AI based. So now we're not talking normal psychometric tests. This is AI based. So Regina, if you and I sit right now and we start writing the same assessment, we will not write the same thing because it's AI based. So it will ask you a question. Depending on your answer, the next question will be different from the question that I had. The very first question that we both had, because we have different answers looking at life. So as you write this assessment, it changes questions according to the way you are responding. And it will find out eventually what it is that you are born with. your natural skill. It will find out what your talent is and what your interest, what your interests are. And based on these three, it will come out with an answer for you. So it will tell you this is your career path. This is what you're passionate about. This is what you will excel in. So it works more like a traffic light.
Mm-hmm.
So after you've written this assessment, it has your interests, whatever you're interested in. If it's green, then you know you're good. If it's red, then you know it's a no-go. If it's amber, it's okay. You may improve on it. You may survive it, but will you enjoy it? That's another question. So it comes out once you've written, it comes out with the top 20 career paths that you can follow. But usually the top 3 is where we find these green lights, and that's where we encourage people to go, because if you follow that one of the top 3, you have about 97% chances of succeeding in life and actually enjoying what you're doing.
Wow.
So yeah, so that for me was like, okay, this now we are talking. And as I said, the universe just brings these people around. I believe there's a reason I met you. It's what you are after. Then the universe just aligns all of that together for you. Yeah, that's why I got involved
Absolutely.
in this. I'm passionate about this. I really love this. For me,
Totally.
it will change so many lives, and it will bring. People are now struggling with anxiety. People are struggling with depression, and it boils down to really your life. What is it that you're doing with your life? Yeah,
I love this. So it's like a robot.
it's like
Like a
yes, a robot.
traffic light.
I say the fact that because when you leave South Africa and you say to people a robot, they're like, "What are you
I
talking
know.
about?"
But it reminds me of my own experience in South Africa. First time somebody mentioned a robot to me. Because I said, I don't see a robot anywhere. Where should I turn? Am I crazy? What's going on here? Am I not seeing the robot?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm fortunate to have been exposed to the world, but yeah, growing up, it was a robot.
Yeah, I'm actually writing about this in my new book because it was just funny.
Yeah,
Language is such a fascinating phenomenon. And
yeah,
I love learning about the different expressions we use well, it's the same basic language, the same English, but it still develops differently depending on where we go. And I find this
yes,
extremely interesting. So yes,
yes.
the robot, for those who didn't know before, is a traffic light in South Africa. So yes, and I also like very much that you mentioned self-leadership, because I always say the same thing as you, Asnath. We very much agree on this. Uh, there is no leadership of others without self-leadership first. Leadership always starts with self, or else it is not going to be sustainably
No.
successful or effective. Now, one other big focus that you talked about is to find what we are born to do. And I often say that in countries like the US and European countries, sometimes especially in the US, so we have the opposite issue. We have too many people who study in college, but then they have the exact same problem when they leave, so it doesn't really help them. It's just that they have now a bunch of debt that they have to deal with, and they're still not prepared because they still are not going after what they really want to do. And that is one of the main problems, right? So you were saying, I took a few notes here, you find out what people's talents are, what their natural strengths are,
Yes,
what they are naturally born with, because that is usually also what is aligned with our passion, and what then
yes,
really gives us that satisfaction and keeps us going and keeps us happy in our jobs, and not desperate and not anxious. Because when we don't do what we really are meant to do, or what we would really like to do, then yes, we get anxious because something inside of us is telling us this is not the right thing for us.
yeah. That's true. That's very true.
So I really love that it is done in this way. And yes, and so you're helping people find their passions and their what we often call purpose. But what if purpose is actually what you really, really want? Right? A lot of people are looking for their purpose. And most of the time it's what they really, really want. And this is why this is such a central question. But a lot of times it's not an easy it's a very simple question, but it's not an easy answer because we are also, you said, okay, yes, education is important. However, it's also always not always done right. And this is a whole different topic. I know we could talk about this forever.
Yeah.
But also it's time to probably, address some of those things in the school system, of course. Now, Asnath, I've known you since 2019 and we've been in contact over the years, and I've come to know you as the living example of grit and resilience. I know you've gone through a lot of personal experiences as well, and just like me too, but just very different ones. So let's talk about grit. Grit is often defined as firmness of mind and spirit. How would you actually define it, and how did you get it?
Like for me, I think great has to do with courage and determination. Um, Determination despite difficulties
Mm-hmm.
that you that surrounds you or that you come across. Um, for me, it's courage even when you're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll give you an example why. When I qualified as a pilot, I didn't know anybody in the industry. As I say, remember in 1999, um, if you talked about pilots, you were talking about a white man in South Africa. You were
Mm-hmm.
not even talking about, there were white women, but there were still also the numbers were also dwindling. And I suppose you found white women because they grew up with fathers who were probably pilots. They
Yeah.
decided to follow that path. So for me, you can't even say to me, um, it's not a generational thing. You find in one of the interviews, I was asked, so where does this come from? Is anyone a pilot in your family? And I'm thinking, really? In South Africa, it's not it's just not possible for me to have had someone who was a pilot in my family. It was not
Okay.
allowed before 1994. So
Yeah.
so so when I qualified, and and unfortunately, that's when I started experiencing a lot of resistance because I just went to flight school. I learned how to fly, and I thought I was going to find a job. And shortly after qualifying, when I was applying for a job, I realized something was not right. There was something wrong. The picture was not the picture that was sold in all the magazines that I read and what I'm experiencing completely opposite. And but I knew I loved flying. I knew I enjoyed flying, and so there had to be a way out of it. So I had to find courage within me to start going out there and knocking on doors. Sometimes you kick doors open because no one was opening those doors. And that for me is the grit I'm talking about. Is that we most of the time, and I suppose is the way most women are brought up as young girls. No one is rooting for you to become something. When you say I want to become an astronaut, it's only now that sometimes from time to time other parents will say, wow, that's great. But in our era, when you said I wanted to become something, will you be able to do it? I don't know how many times I was asked if I could fly a bigger aeroplane. I was asked so many times if I could fly a bigger aeroplane. And like, I don't think this question is asked to the men if they can fly a bigger aeroplane. But why am I being
Right.
asked this question? You understand? So so fortunately, because I knew what I wanted, I was passionate about this flying, I had to find courage within me to say, come hail or high water, I am going to succeed in this career. So that's what great is about. Great is about when you know what it is that you want.
I love
To
that
have
you
the
mentioned courage, actually, because that comes to mind for me too when I talk about grit.
yeah,
It's like courage in the face of adversity or resistance, or to really find that unyielding
yeah,
persistence to do it anyway.
to do it anyway. And you'll be amazed that it's there's a saying that you'll never know if you were going to succeed in something if you don't try.
Mhm.
So you'll be amazed at what happens when you keep pushing. When you keep pushing, it's like a bully
Mm.
in school. A bully will continue being a bully for as long as no one stands up to them.
Yeah.
A bully is actually someone who's very terrified within themselves. Someone who's
Weak.
not,
Yes.
yeah, this little person inside who wants to look like a wolf outside.
Mhm.
You know, until someone stands up to that bully, you know, no one will ever know that this person is actually a little person who's very afraid.
Mhm.
So that's what happens when doors are closing on you, when you get harassed, but you know that this is what I want. Once you stand up and you actually take that first step, you'll be amazed at what happens in your life. You'll be amazed at what doors open in your life. And that's what great is. You
Yeah.
just keep going. It's not that you're not afraid. That little girl in me still comes up from time to time when something goes wrong. But can you do this? Because that's what was hammered in my head for the longest time when I was in my early 20s. That I'm here. And I always have to remind myself that Asnath, now here, you've gone this far. Really. You've gotten so much experience now. You are 20 years ahead of where you were when you were being told you're not good enough. So I have to keep reminding myself that, you know what, you've gotten this far. So it means that you can do this job. You are good at this job. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And that's what I want women out there to do. Just look at yourself where you were when you were 21, and where you are at 50 or at 35. See, but why am I still being told that I'm not good enough? And yet I've survived all of this. Remember, a lot of men don't even get to be questioned about their capabilities. We get questioned and yet we still survive. So we should not actually be questioning whether we can do these jobs. We should actually be saying, hell, I survived this. So it means if I was not good at what I was doing, I wouldn't have survived this because there were so many stumbling blocks put in my way for me to fail. And yet I succeeded. So maybe you're even better at your job than what you what you actually what you think is actually possible in your head. Yeah.
Absolutely. And courage is not the absence of fear. It's actually doing it anyway, despite the fear. That's what
Yeah.
courage is. You also mentioned again passion and what it takes. As I believe that when you have that passion that we talked about earlier in the context of your mountain reach technologies project, right? That passion again helps us here when we are asked to have to show this grit and this resilience. That passion coupled with perseverance, with this persistence, that then helps us go forward. And I love that you said, look at where you are now. And would you have thought 20 years ago that you would be able to do this? Maybe not, because we underestimate ourselves and how capable and how powerful we really are. We can do so much more than what we think we can do or what we believe we can do consciously or subconsciously. And this is a very, very important point to remember. That's why I also encourage my clients usually to make lists of their achievements, their accomplishments, because it
That's
makes
actually a
you.
very good idea. I'm I think as we grow, there's certain areas that we neglect.
Yes.
And that's my weakness. You know, I tend to shy away from my achievement. I do that a lot. And so I am a witness to what you say, that we don't actually look at our achievements and 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 actually face them. You know, it's like I've never actually sat down and look at what I've actually achieved. So it's something again that was never encouraged for us as women. I don't know how many times I've walked out of a session and the boys are like, oh, that was incredible. That was, they're very confident about the session that they just had. And in the meantime, I'm feeling, wow, this is not, even when I get people saying to me, wow, we believe you did 1, 2, 3, 4 in like brilliantly. Again, certain things were hammered in your head for so long that you can't accept that you are actually capable of doing certain things. And so, Regina, for me, that's the challenge that I find a lot of women face. Uh, and I just want to digress a little bit here.
Okay.
So in corporate, for example, you find an all boys club where the boys come together, they go for drinks, and they talk about the job and they talk about their achievements and and all of that. But you don't find it with women. I don't know any group of women that actually come together often enough to just talk about their achievements, to talk about their challenges, and to encourage one another. I don't actually know an organization like that. I know organizations that come together once a year,
Oh,
and we celebrate, oh, Regina has achieved this, Asnath has achieved that. But what happens during the course of the year? We what? Email each other, we meet virtually maybe, but not, but there's no group, as I say, that I know that just comes together, just out of the blue, every second week. Let's meet, let's come together. Let's introduce young women into the circles and actually make sure that they don't go through what we went through and form that all girls club, like there is an all boys club. Because in an all boys club, most of the time we find we don't feel like we belong. The reason for that is because you want to go home if you have children to look after your children, you know, uh, and and that is kind of. I spoke to one lady. She was in one of the banking, working for one of the banks, quite senior, but she had to leave because she was not part of the all boys club because they can just decide after work that they're going for drinks and they can go home at 1 in the morning. She has 2 children. She can't go home at 1 in the morning. So where are those clubs for us with children where we can come with our children even, you know, for
yeah.
those.
So, yeah, the children, that is definitely a big topic, right? Because that role is still more more assigned to the woman than the man, and traditionally and in general, let's just say. Now, I do know a lot of associations or networks, or like women networks, women's associations that I have also collaborated with. For example, the Financial Women's Association in in New York, and they have programs also where they bring students in, where they bring young women in. Sorry, and they they do exist in many places. They actually, to a point nowadays, that the men are saying, hey, why do we not have this? And we need to now
That's
again
really
catch
great
up.
to know. I'm
But
making
I
note of.
guess, yeah,
Good to
it
know.
definitely depends on where and how and whatnot, right? So it depends on a lot of factors. Uh, I I know when you look at corporate, yes, originally also a lot of the organizations were created by men for men. That has certainly changed over time, and I believe that I always want to focus really on, what can we change? What can we address? Where can we do our part? Because I think that's been proven most, to call it something successful, for, you know, any group really, not just women, right? If you focus on what can I do, and that's what you're doing also, as not with your work. That's exactly what you do with everything you have done, right? With your side projects, with your own professional career, with this new wonderful Mountain Reach Technologies project. So there is so much that you are doing proactively, and you wouldn't have to do this, right? So you just saying, okay, here I am. I want to make my contribution, and this is what I can do. And this is exactly what I love about you, apart from being who you are as a friend, you know? So, and this is also why I was so excited when you reached out. And I'm still extremely delighted that we are working on a joint venture project at this time, a project where we will train women in new paradigms of leadership so they can be both more effective as leaders and more successful in their careers, because it's about both. And actually they go together, they go hand in hand. Right. And in our first session that we are currently planning for, we will specifically teach them strategies to enhance their presence and their visibility so that they can grow their careers and increase their impact at the same time in an organization with their teams, benefit their organizations while they are benefiting their teams and themselves. Because I always say, you know, anything is a holistic project, ideally, and not life is a holistic phenomenon, but your career is also a holistic phenomenon when it's well-rounded, and when you can have that impact, then you also will draw greater fulfillment and satisfaction from it. So it's always a two-way street or a multiple-way street. So what do you have to say about this?
No, I believe in that completely. As I said to you, so the road that led me to Mountain Reach Technologies is realizing that you're looking at one problem to solve one problem, and you realize that if you don't have this holistic approach to life, and life, I'm talking about your career, life, I'm talking about your family side, whether it's your position within a job. If there are holes in this picture, it will never be complete. And that's what you and I are doing now, collaborating. We're trying to make this whole picture, this thing whole, so that when a woman goes to work, she doesn't just focus on, you know, I am in marketing, so that's where it ends. But you are in marketing, but for you to actually grow as a person, what is it that needs to happen? Because you can be marketing, but are you really leading in that marketing area? I'm not talking about if you're the general manager or the GM of that sector, but I'm talking, we're talking here about you as a person. You need to be able to lead from within, from your, as Asnath, when I go to work, if I don't lead myself, if I don't want to succeed in what I'm doing, if I don't want to see the company I'm working for succeeding, if I don't have that picture, and that's where we end up having gaps. That's where you end up having companies, someone is not doing the job that, so, there's gaps where there's no communication between two people because they don't have the holistic picture of what it is that you need to achieve as a human in every area of your life. So every area of your life, you need to lead in every area of your life. People think that when we talk about leadership, we talk about when I get to work and I'm a CEO. That's not it. Leadership starts here. It starts with me, and then it flows out there. Because if I'm leading myself in the right way, if I know what I want and I know how to get it, but I have a vision of what it is that I need to see happening, just me on my own. When by the time I get to work, 80% of the stuff is really resolved because I know how to lead myself. I know how to be a leader myself. I can't go out there and lead if I can't lead myself? You know, you see a lot of people trying to lead out there, and yet their lives, your life is a mess. I'm not saying my life is perfect, but I need to make sure that I I do everything in my power to lead myself. I do everything in my power to ensure that the picture that I want to see somehow, eventually must come together. So, and that's the thing. It's a holistic approach to your life. Your life is not your work and then you leave your work and then it's something else. Your life is a holistic. It's a whole that needs to be filled with a whole lot of things in it. And um, the reality is that women have a long way to go, and it's all because of the challenges that we face. So, and that's why we have sessions, different sessions that talk about different topics, because eventually those topics must link. There must be a link, and then it must form a whole. And then a person says, "Wow, so this is where I need to start," and then this whole thing will be, when it's complete, it's, I'll be an amazing person on the other side.
Well, we all are, because we all learn from each other. We all constantly grow, and people like us, we want to grow. We want to not stagnate, right? And the women we work with, they are in that same boat. Sometimes we do feel stuck because we don't know how to get out of stagnation, and then we need help. I also love that you picked up this idea again of life being a holistic phenomenon, and we sometimes artificially compartmentalize it into different sectors, but they are all interrelated and connected, and they're not separate from each other. Now, you mentioned also perfectionism. Your life is not perfect. My life is not perfect either. No, I think nobody's life is perfect. Even they pretend it to be perfect, because there is no such thing. I think it has to be perfect for you.
Exactly.
That's really what it is about. It needs to, because once life is perfect, we're not learning anymore. So I think we're here on this earth to learn and grow, and to also share our growth and our knowledge and our wisdom as we grow, as we keep growing. Also, you just literally described, and you even put your hands in this area, right? You literally described what heart-centered leadership is, in a way, right? So I was going to ask you, tell us what you understand by bold and heart-centered leadership. You really already described a big piece of what it is. Would you like to add anything to that concept now? To bold and heart-centered leadership? Is there anything you would like?
It also has to do with the love for people.
Mm-hmm.
That for me, it's also, it forms the biggest part of it. Love for people. I love to see people succeed. I love to see people flourish in life. Um, and that's for me, that is true leadership. When when you don't want to hold back because you don't want to see other people become better than you, that's not leadership. A leader loves people. A leader wants to see people prosper. Even if you're my subordinate and I see something in you, I must be in a position to, nourish that part that I see, because sometimes you don't see people don't see what they're good at, but you're sitting in a position where you can see that this person is actually very good at something that they do. You need to nourish that. Let them know so that they can nourish it themselves and let it grow, because that's another part of, completing this person, because they look up to you. Sometimes we look up to people, um, whether they're bad leaders or good leaders. You never know. We look up to people because of their positions, but
Mm-hmm.
I tend to look up to somebody because of their works. I look at your work. I respect your position. That's fine, but um, but I have to look at the work that you do, and that to me says you're a leader. When you love people, the love for people is a very important one. You must love people. If you don't love people, you have no business wanting to be a leader.
Wow, you're bringing up so many valid points again. We could go on here forever. For example, like even the word subordinate, right? We sometimes it's important to think about the words we use. And
Yes.
is it maybe time to change certain words? I know that different words are used in different geographic areas, of course. However, words have power. We really need to think about the words we use. Why have they been created, or when? And is it potentially time to change some of them? And I don't want to become the person who artificially changes words to create a specific agenda, which is also happening in the world right now. Which puts us into a place where it does not really serve us. But really, it's about language that serves us, and that also serves our own thinking and what we think of us in a certain role that we have in an organization, right? And then I think also whether we, as and our listeners know, good and bad or qualifications or labels we put on people. But it's really, to me, as long as we use those terms, and I know what you mean by them, it's, for me, the good leader, what it is also about intention, right? And that has to do with this love for people that you mentioned. And that's also why I wrote, and I just republished it actually yesterday, an article I think it was in 2020, when I wrote about the new business consciousness of love, compassion, and co-creation. It's a simple article laying out some very basic, fundamental things that I believe we need more of in leadership. And you just mentioned one of them, and they are actually all connected again, right?
Yes. Yeah. Because sometimes we tend to undermine people's positions, forgetting that without that position existing, this job will not be complete. A simple example: if I go and fly, if I'm the captain, but I'm undermining the cabin crew, the job cannot be complete.
Yeah.
Every person is that important, and that's what a leader recognizes, that every position is very important. It's equally important, because without that person in that position, the job cannot be completed.
Yeah, just imagine yourself as a pilot serving drinks at the same time and keeping people in order and telling them to pass.
You understand what I'm saying? There's a reason those positions were created.
And closing the
Because
bins.
you understand, they're needed. You have ground staff, you have you have your engineer. They're equally important.
Of course.
In their right, in their own right, but they are equally important.
Without them, you're not staying in the air.
Without them, we cannot complete this thing that we want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's this image and situation that just really made me laugh when he had to do all these different. I mean, it's not funny, but yeah.
Yeah, I get to the airplane and I must go and check that the oil is filled, and
Exactly.
you understand? It's I'm not going to achieve what I'm not going to have a very good outcome at the end of the day.
Exactly.
You understand? But for me to have an excellent outcome, that engineer, I must recognize him. That ground staff, I must recognize it. The cleaner on board the aeroplane, I must recognize them.
Yeah.
Because they are equally important. Yeah.
They're extremely important also for the image of the airline.
Yes. So yeah,
Absolutely.
we tend to forget. So as a leader, you can't be in your own bubble and think that without you things can work. In actual fact, things might just work much better without you, because you now having this tunnel vision. You don't have a holistic approach to life. You don't have a broader understanding of what it is that you need to achieve. Yeah.
Right. And the respect for it, for everything that's involved. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so Asnath, we've been talking for a long time, and I know we could talk all day, because I always am very, very happy when we get to talk. You're a very busy lady. So let us know, where can people find you online?
So mountainreach.tech is where you can
Mhm.
find us online. But as I said, it's a new technology. So, and the other improvements that we are doing at the moment is to change it into different languages. So you find it in different, I mean, it's even in Germany. I can find out what it's called in Germany. But it's so in what we're currently doing in South Africa is to change it into all the official languages within South Africa, because not everyone is good at speaking English. So
Mhm.
we need everyone to be able to understand, so that when they answer truthfully, not because they're doing some guesswork and then you know, stuff gen in and then you get stuff out. That is not correct. So we need to be able to get to that level. But people can email me at asnath@mountainreach.co.za. Reach is with REACH. asnath@mountainreach.co.za, and I'll be able to respond from there. But yeah, and we can send the link. So we are in the process of putting the link on our website so that people can just access it from anywhere in the world. But currently we have to send out the link because we've been working with corporates. So we design the link for that specific corporate and we send it to them. But if anyone wants it and they email me, I can send them the link. We can
That's
do that.
great.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm going to include, with your permission, this email
Yeah.
also in the in the podcast description at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And I cannot say how excited I am. I cannot express in words how excited I am to
Yeah, I think
to
for me, it's, I don't know, because I think I'm an introvert. So
uh,
I don't, a lot of people say to me, but you don't post a lot of things. I'm like, I'll try to start posting. But again, it has to do maybe with my background, where we are not used to celebrating our achievements. So I'll work on that.
exactly. And also, you are just also very busy traveling that much as a pilot. So everybody, I think, understands that too. There's a lot of, there's a lot of additional time involved, not just the flying time, and people don't always see that, but
Yeah.
we need to remind ourselves of this too. So, okay, I know you're also on Instagram. I'm also going to post any links that you have shared with me, and yes, I am extremely, extremely excited to be working on this joint venture project with you. We are working toward a masterclass
Yes.
probably at the end of August, still figuring out all the specific details, but it is going to be for women, and it is going to be about leadership and also that self-leadership in their career so they can achieve that visibility they need to be advancing in their careers as quickly and as swiftly as they want, and also in the right direction.
Yes. So that's yeah. If we don't bring about change about things that bother us, it will never happen, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Any
so
last
I
words of wisdom? Yes, please go ahead.
oh, words of wisdom.
I know you have a lot of wisdom. So anything that I have not asked you that you would like to share, or anything that comes to mind right
I'm
now?
just trying to, and this goes really to women. I read something somewhere where it says something in the region of, if you can break the cycle at the stage of thoughts, the decision and actions which follow will always be of a higher quality.
Wow, yeah.
So we just break that. Once you start doubting yourself, stop right there. Stop right there. Change that thought.
Stop
And
yourself, turn it
yeah,
around.
turn it around, turn it around, turn it around. We need to do that. We need the self-doubt is something that we are not born with. We need to remember that you are not born with it. Something that was instilled in you. So
Mhm.
you can change that. Stop
Yes,
it at that stage of thought. Just say, I'm breaking the cycle. It's not happening.
I love that. I love that advice. So listeners, you heard it. Also applies to many men. I know it from the work with the men I've done. So it's really awesome advice for anybody. I think we all have those moments. Some have it more often, some have it less often, some maybe never have it. I don't know. I've never met anybody who never has that. Okay, Asnath, we've been talking almost for an hour, so I want to free up some time for you as well, because I know as I said before, we could go on forever. So yes, thank you so much again for enlightening us today, for telling us about our joint project as well as the other project you do with Mountain Ridge Technologies as well, and for sharing your beautiful story as a pilot and why you do what you do, including all those life-changing undertakings you have accomplished so far, and you will still accomplish, I'm sure. Make it a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. It's cold in South Africa again, in Joburg at least. So yeah, we're back in the middle of winter again.
Yes, and it is getting hot here right now. We woke up to a somewhat cooler morning. Yes, it is Sunday as we are recording this. It will be airing on a Friday. So yes, thank you all for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode. I have more wonderful and very knowledgeable guests coming up, very inspiring guests. Stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in to Rise to Lead. Keep shining your light, standing up for what's right, and inspiring others to step into their brilliance. If you liked this episode, please give it a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Rise to Lead podcast on your preferred podcast app. Until next time, it's Regina Huber, and in the meantime, remember to rise to lead.